And good God, Donald Trump. I just, it is concerning to me how effectively Donald Trump can boil everything down to a bumper sticker and make it very simple. We just need to stop sending our jobs to China and Mexico and bring those factories back home. Now, obviously, there's a lot to that. But he doesn't get into the lot to that. He did no 16-point plan, no, just I'll do it. This is, this is very effective politics. This is the sort of thing that he's basically running Reagan's campaign. And I watched Reagan's campaign in 1980, or at least I listened to it. I didn't own a television in 1980, but I was paying attention. And it was one of just utter simplicity. And there you go again. And just utter simplicity. And the fact, this is clip 13, Danielle, the fact that in Reagan's second term, when Walter Mondale was running against him, he came out and he said, Mondale, the Democratic nominee for president, came out and said, Reagan has cut taxes. He's gonna raise your taxes. And in fact, he did. Reagan raised taxes 18 times during his presidency. Mostly on working people, mostly on lower income people, doubled the Social Security tax, which is exclusively, at that time, people making under about $40,000 a year. And, excuse me, and Walter Mondale said this.
Mr. Reagan will raise taxes, and so will I. He won't tell you, I just did.
And see, we Democrats said, yes, an honest politician. But there were enough Americans who said, what? You're going to raise my taxes? That, that was it for Walter Mondale. And, I remember that. And Trump just going off on these super simple, super simplistic plans that it's time to end globalism. This is actually, he's right about this, but what he's wrong about are who the villains are in this morality play. Keep in mind, every single one, without exception, every single one of these so-called trade deals that had to pass Congress. The one exception would be permanent normal trade relations with China, but that's not really a trade deal. That's establishing a line of trade, communication and trade. Every single one, NAFTA, CAFTA, the Korea Free Trade Deal, the Panama Free Trade Deal, you name it, every single one of them passed Congress over the majority opposition of Democrats in both the House and the Senate. Every single one. Democrats have been against free trade with the single exception of two men, Barack Obama and Bill Clinton, Bill Clinton advocated for NAFTA. Barack Obama is pushing. In fact, he's got a thing coming this weekend. John Kasich, for God's sake, is coming to Washington, D.C. today to do a gig with President Obama, or maybe it's early next week, but it's soon. President Obama has invited John Kasich to the White House to pitch the TPP. And I'm looking at this going, what, are you trying to hand the election to Donald Trump? This is not a Democratic issue. This is a Republican issue. Republicans have always supported so-called free trade, what I call corporate managed trade. Democrats have always fought against this. Republicans have always supported this. And yes, Bill Clinton in 93 signed NAFTA, but it was over the objection of the vast majority of Democrats in both the House and Senate. These were Republican sales pitches for this so-called free trade. And now Donald Trump has basically, he's running as an anti-Reagan Democrat when it comes to trade. And if you think the Republican Party is going to go along with him on this, you're crazy, right? I mean, this is the I'll say anything to get elected. But this really should be the message, one of the 3 or 4 core messages of the Clinton presidency. It certainly was of the Bernie Sanders campaign. And Hillary Clinton has said the right things, and the Democratic platform says the right things. We don't want TPP. We want trade deals that only bring jobs to America. We need a national trade policy. But this is clip number 4, Danielle. This is Donald Trump talking about ending globalism and replacing it with Americanism. And this kind of rhetoric, as disingenuous as it is, as I'm saying, this is, you'll remember the primary when Trump talked like this, all the Republicans said he's crazy. Ain't going to happen. There's no way Mitch McConnell or Paul Ryan or anybody, any Republican in power in Congress is going to allow this kind of agenda to happen. But Trump knows that the American people want it. And so he's saying, you know, a chicken in every pot. I'm going to do this for you. When in fact, historically, it's been Democrats who brought manufacturing to this country. It was Democrats who fought and won World War II. It was Democrats who fought for the GI Bill. It was Democrats who maintained high tariffs and maintained a functioning trade system. It was Democrats who won World War I. It was et cetera, et cetera. Anyhow, here's Donald Trump from yesterday.
Jobs can stop leaving our country, and they will just absolutely start pouring in. Can happen. Failing schools can become flourishing schools. Crumbling roads and bridges can become gleaming new infrastructure. Inner cities can experience a flood of new jobs and investment. And rising crime can give way to safe and prosperous communities. All of these things and so much more are possible. But to accomplish them, we must replace the present policy of globalism, which have just taken so many jobs out of our communities and so much wealth out of our country, and replace it with a new policy of Americanism.
Now, you know, it's a simple sales pitch. And the reality is that if Barack Obama in the first few months of his administration had gotten the $2 trillion stimulus that he asked Congress for, if he hadn't been kneecapped repeatedly, if the Republicans hadn't filibustered every effort to strengthen our economy, if President Obama hadn't been forced to turn a third of the final stimulus that he was able to get out, which was just a little less than $1 trillion, a third of that into tax cuts for rich people, because that was the price that the Republicans extracted from him for any stimulus at all. If President Obama had been able to get through Congress the legislation that he was asking for, and has been asking for throughout his presidency, by the way, you know, we've got a $2 to $3 trillion infrastructure deficit. Our cities are in a crisis. We've got, you know, the quality of your school depends on the zip code you're born into or your family lives in. I mean, there's all these problems that are easily solved, but the Republicans have been blocking any attempt to solve them at all. Why? So they can run on the failures of the Obama administration. When Donald Trump or any Republican talks about our inner cities being in crisis, he's not complaining, he's bragging. This is the work of the Republican Party. Mitch McConnell made it very clear. My number one job is, Mitch McTurtle, my number one job is to make sure that Barack Obama is a one-term president. Right. The caucus room conspiracy, which was followed by the meeting at the Koch brothers retreat, where John Cornyn and Jim DeMint had a debate in front of a room full of billionaires. Jim DeMint saying we should not give Obama anything. And John Cornyn, the Republican senator from Texas, saying, well, we should go along with him on the things that are, we agree on, that Republicans agree on. And DeMint is like, no, delegitimize him, destroy his presidency, ruin the economy. And then when the election comes, we'll say, hey, we can fix this, because nobody's going to report the fact that we ruined it in the first place. The news media is not going to honestly report. You can read it in Jane Mayer's book, Dark Money. You can read it. I mean, there's no shortage of places where you can find the information, but you've got to really dig for it. You're not going to hear it as pushback on CNN or MSNBC or Fox or any of the other. Well, I mean, those are basically your so-called news networks. So here he is bragging about how the Republicans have destroyed the country and saying, I mean, this has been their plan from day one.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And the Democratic Party and Hillary Clinton, and we've done it, I mean, with the platform. But we need to be doing it more with the advertising and whatnot, pushing back and saying, no, we can fix America.